the end. I was like, well, I was also trying to climb on board the movie. I was like, okay, it's a little bigger and louder than, what we're used to with this, but maybe that's not a bad thing,
But at the same time, like, how is a scientist beating up a soldier?
I don't know.
How does that fucking make sense?
Did they actually get into a physical brawl, or is it just guns?
No, dude, like, Jor-El beats the shit out of Zod. So, Cal he gets sent off, and he gets on Earth, and he
has the codex. Jor-El breaks up the codex and shoots it into this naked baby.
Yeah.
And then shoots the naked baby into space.
Yes. and so then we and so I guess
they'd been planning it for a while. They had a special naked baby ship, and
just in case.
Yeah.
That looks like an anal bead / Kong that you would stuff with peanut butter for your dog.
Little both.
Yeah. Zack Snyder's like, can I have both?
We're treated to flashbacks of Clark Kent's youth throughout the movie, while we're also seeing him as an adult, like going through his life.
He's sort of drifting from job to job. At the beginning of the film, he saves an oil rig from being destroyed. He's working on a fishing boat, and then they see the oil rig's in trouble, and he saves it, and then has to disappear because they saw him.
Yeah, because they saw him, fucking
lifting,
walking through fire and lifting tons of steel.
Right.
We're introduced to Lois Lane, who's covering. Is she covering? Like, she's covering this thing that that's like thousands of years old that the government has found that's frozen in ice. But is she also?
I think she's she spots
that she's saved by Clark.
Right, Clark, and this is something the movie doesn't explain. Clark has somehow found this thing.
Yeah.
I took a bathroom break at this point, so I came in and I was like, oh.
Solitude.
Right.
I do want to say I love Amy Adams in this movie. I think she's one of the things that actually works, and anytime she's on screen, the movie is better. But yes, for some reason, Clark has found it at the same time as the military, which, whatever.
And
you have no idea how he found it.
Lois spots him, follows him.
She gets like a Sasquatch picture of him with her camera.
Like a Bigfoot,
Yeah, he's kind of frozen in place.
She's attacked by what is frozen is like a Kryptonian like seeding, like a seeding pod, kind of like a seeding ship. Because that's what they did. They would send ships out to different planets and
set up colonies.
Yeah. And so Lois is attacked by a robot. Clark destroys it, saves her life by cauterizing a wound that she got,
which is pretty cool. And
then she writes this story about this heroic ghost angel thing that's saving lives.
And Perry laser beams for eyes.
And Perry White, played by
Morpheus,
ain't having it.
He's like, I'm not gonna print this bullshit, and so she gives it to a
tabloid,
like the TMZ
blog,
for science fiction.
And so it's out. He's pretty pissed about it,
and while this is going on, Clark has figured out how to activate the.
Well, let's discuss this movie, I guess, chronologically. He's a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
And
the movie comes up with some very flimsy excuses to show his past. Like, he sees a school bus going by and suddenly he remembers the time he saved a school bus full of drowning children.
Well, I guess the earliest flashback is he's a little boy. He's just chilling out in class, and all of a sudden his powers all descend upon him at once, and he's hearing everything and seeing everything and fucking losing his shit.
And not only seeing X-ray, he's seeing inside his classmates.
Yeah, seeing his teachers beating hard,
which would freak out any small kid.
Which I thought was a really cool thing. Obviously is if you had those powers, it's just not going to be oh cool, dope, I can see through walls.
And it sets up something later in the movie too, which is nice.
And so he freaks out, runs out of the room. His mom has to come and locks himself in a janitor's closet.
Right.
And his mom has to come in and talk him down.
The entire class is still standing around her. They don't back off. They don't give her any room. And she launches into a monologue that is clearly meant to be recalled later in the film. It's just so flat. There's no emotional arc to it. It's just Diane Lane picking up a paycheck.
Diane Lane is my old lady crush.
She's better than the movie. Let me put it that way.
She's better than this.
Everybody's better than this movie.
But yeah, you're right. The teacher isn't come on, kid, let's go back to the class.
Let's listen to this woman comfort her terrified son so we can laugh at him later.
Then I guess the next scene we get with Clark as a youth, it's a school bus scene that you mentioned.
Which in itself is kind of a cool scene. Pete Ross sees. Well, Clark pulls him. Not only does Clark save the bus,
well, Pete Ross apparently is like a chubby bully.
Yeah, he's the chubby Flash Thompson.
Yeah, what does he call him? Like Dick Splash.
Dick Splash. Yeah.
And
he's the first Kryptonian Dick Splash in centuries.
The bus.
It blows a tire.
That's the word I was going to say. Bust the tire.
Bust the nut.
Bust the nut. Blows a tire, and the driver swerves and ends up going off a bridge
into some water.
And as most bridges are over.
Yeah, the drought hasn't set in yet.
And Clark immediately goes to the back, rips the door off,
and then lifts the bus,
and then pushes the bus onto shore, and
he goes back under and pulls Pete out.
And I guess that would be Lana Lang. I assume.
I guess.
I mean, she's
never named.
There's a girl who
looks at him in a friendly way.
Yeah, and so I assume it's Lana Lang.
Right.
She sees Clark behind the bus, with his arms on it, and he's just and then dives back in and pulls Pete out.
Right.
Which I guess is supposed to show you hey, even he'll even
save bullies.
He'll even save the dude who called him a Dick Splash.
Right.
And then his Pete and his mom
show up to talk about how Clark's an angel or something, or it's divine providence.
My boy saw what he saw, and
this ain't the first time something like this happened, and y'all know it.
And Martha's like, shut the fuck up.
I know what you think you saw. And Jonathan's like, fuck this.
And
goes outside and you should have let that kid die.
Yeah. And he's like...
Which is so out of character.
Yeah, he's like... And at one point, I turn to Sean and I say, Superman is gay Jesus. I never really got any of that subtext with other Christopher Nolan films. I didn't get any subtext from any Zack Snyder film.
I don't know. If there are sexual politics in the movie...
Is Snyder gay? I mean, he definitely has a thing.
He has a wife.
Yeah. Which doesn't mean anything, but I mean, he is married to a woman.
Right. His wife.
His woman.
His
She's
wife
a producer.
is his producing partner. Yeah.
Deborah.
Which I think Nolan's wife is also his producing partner.
Nice. Keep it in the family.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of Jesus Christ allusions.
Yeah, well, there's one shot when he's jumping off the Kryptonian ship where
ridiculous.
He's obviously doing this, the Christ pose.
For
those of you who can't see through your phones or your computers.
He's kind of there's a hole in the Kryptonian ship.
Yeah, Clark's just bashed a hole in the side of
in the wall.
Superman's just bashed a hole in it.
And he's standing there, and as he sails back, he puts his hands out in a Christ pose.
And they hold on it for a good 3 or 4 seconds
and then
before
he flies off.
Yeah.
And I was just oh. And then also the fact that he's 33.
Yeah, there's Jesus stuff, but I don't know how much of the stuff is gay, because like I mentioned to you earlier...
also, you don't get a lot from... I mean, you get his childhood up until 15 maybe, and then boom, you're right up to 33.
Just like Jesus, yeah. And they make a big deal of him being 33.
Yeah. I mean, it's explicitly mentioned. Right. Otherwise, there would be
come on.
Look, I like my illusions. Very subtle, a little nuanced.
Right.
Not so heavy-handed.
Well, I mean, Christopher Nolan's illusions and stuff, he goes more for political ideas or abstract concepts, and he's not subtle. He's not a subtle filmmaker either. It's just he's better with his craft than Zack Snyder is. He knows how to put it together better than Snyder does. Snyder's off the charts in some areas and Forrest Gump in others. Yeah. But without the homespun wisdom.
But yeah, at this point, Jonathan Kent's Clark's should I have let him die? And he's maybe, I don't know. But
right.
You can't be doing it. They can never do this ever again. Let
me show you why. And then he takes him to the barn and shows him the spaceship. And gives another monologue about you're the answer to are we alone in the universe? This whole, it's this pattern the movie has of people monologuing without any pretense or anybody kind of drawing it out of them, and it's so flat.
You're special. You're so special. You're the specialest boy.
Like you lifting, yeah, pretty much. But you can't tell anybody.
Shut the fuck up. Yeah, like it's crazy.
They can't know how special you are.
But no, like you're absolutely right. Like he's telling them, they're like sitting on like the back of the truck or whatever, and he's like, you can't do this anymore. You can't like like you got to be as normal as possible. You got to just blend in. And then 5 seconds later, they're in the barn next to a spaceship, and he's like, "You're
not normal, boy."
He's like, "You're like the biggest fucking deal ever."
But you can't tell anybody, or you'll get in trouble.
I did like, and it was in the trailer, but I like the line when Kevin Costner's like, "You are my son." I like his delivery there.
The delivery there is good, but the scene leading up to it doesn't give it the punch that it deserves.
No,
like this is a great trailer, essentially. Like all the best bits. I mean, some of the action shots they saved for the actual film, but like,
and the last flashback scene is
Clark getting bullied outside the wood shop where his dad works.
Oh, there's two then. There's two. But yeah, some guys are bullying Clark, and
they see his dad,
and they run off, and Clark's like,
Pete Ross helps him up.
Yeah, and he's like, I wanted to beat him up, and his dad's like, you can't though.
He's like, well, I wanted you to then, but then what happens? You hit him and kill him, and then what?
And then I got a fucking wrongful death suit on my hands.
It's like,
and then we lose the house.
The biggest fucking downer. I mean, like, I thought that, again, like, Superman, not again, but for the first time, Superman the movie, it's aged, right? Mm-hmm. The Lex Luthor stuff, all that, it's very campy. But the first hour of that film gets all this stuff that this film is trying to do, it gets it perfect. You get Krypton, you get the criminals.
You don't get the impression that Superman is this great moral person because he's been instilled these like this morality by his parents.
Right.
But you just get the idea that he won't do it because like he's afraid that people will reject him.
Right, or that his dad didn't want him to. His dad pounded that idea into him his whole life, only to be told at the very end,
like,
we'll get there.
At this point, like, he tells him, like, he's like, oh, yeah, well, I wanted to punch him. He's like, well, I kind of wanted you to punch him, too, but then what? Then people find out, and then we're all fucked, and then whatever.
Right.
When it should be, like, I wanted to punch him. It's like, I kind of wanted you to punch him, too, but you know what? That's not what good people do.
There's nothing about him, about what it takes to be a good person.
Like, we should be bigger than that. We should, we shouldn't stoop down to that kind of level. That's what makes Superman Superman. It's...
Yeah, the moral part of him.
And there's, like, almost no morality at play at all here.
I think Henry Cavill does a really great job as Superman, and I think he does a great job of naturally just projecting this sort of decency and gentleness, but also a real masculinity, too. Like, he's got a hairy chest. You can see the hair's poking out the top of his uniform. So I think that the film almost gets away with that. But, yeah, his first moral... He does
moral deeds, but
he turns himself into the government and
moral philosophy being...
Unlike with Bruce Wayne, where he's like, why do we fall? His dad instilled that in him in that one scene.
Yeah.
Or a couple scenes. But his dad's actually teaching him rather than just being, don't fucking do this. And like, that's a real big mess up. And it ruins the character of Jonathan Kent.
It does.
And then
the last time we see Jonathan Kent, he dies in a tornado.
Like, just doing this.
Like telling Clark not to reveal him, not to save his life. He's like, don't do it. Because he's like...
if they had sent Clark back for the dog, he could have run so fast that no one would have fucking seen him.
Or he could have... I mean...
Just jumped out of the way or something.
Or it could have been like, the wind caught me and threw me over here. Like, I can't believe you're safe. Like, it's a miracle. Crazy.
I know. But no, Daddy goes and gets the dog. Well, and it's like, no, don't come.
The very last time we see Jonathan is after the big fight. And there's that great wordless flashback.
Oh, yeah.
Of him working on the truck and seeing Clark running around with the cape.
With a towel for a cape.
Yeah, the tree. If they had stuck with, like, the Tree of Life moment flashbacks where, like, there wasn't any talking and just kind of, like, images. Visually showing... Because we know the fucking story. Smallville was on for like 1 million years.
If Snyder had made a silent film, this would be a great movie.
Like that's my favorite part of the trailer. Like the little boy and like the
with his puppy and
like the really bright blue denim jeans, the white T-shirt, and the bright red towel as a cape,
and the sunset behind
him, and him like putting his hands on his hips. Like what little kid has done that?
We all did that. Yeah.
I didn't, but
well, every little boy.
Yeah.
Maybe not every little girl, but a lot of. I think more of them now.
I was She-Ra, so I guess
it's pretty much it's the same thing.
Just being a hero, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Jonathan.